Morning, Dan.
Morning, Josh.
How you doing, bud?
Do you know what O.P.P is, Josh?
It's really fill in the blank.
And
Because popsicles.
are you down with O.P.P?
Yeah, I'm down with it.
I don't ever.
How many times?
That song was huge when we were growing up,
Yeah.
and I don't know if I ever remember exactly what O.P.P was, because there was a lot of different.
Well, I think it's choose your own adventure.
Yeah.
What do you want it? Other people's.
Right.
Today, it's other people's parents.
Other people's parents.
But the P is up for discovery.
It's up for debate. If
Yeah.
you know what it is, let us know.
Yeah.
Um.
Are you down with it, or are you not
Yeah.
down with it? And
Yeah.
that's what we're going to be talking about. Other people's parents, meaning our kids' friends' parents.
To their people and their parents.
Right?
There we go.
They fit the category.
Yeah. I love this topic, Josh. So, all right. So tell me it's other people's parents, but you really break that down. It's their parenting philosophy, issues with oh, I don't want to let Johnny go over to Susie's house because of Susie's parents. That's what we're talking about, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
What? And it's the people really is anyone that's going to have an influential role in your kid's life, their home or a space or a coach. We're going to be specific to our kids' friends' parents today, but it applies really to anyone that has an influential role in your kid's life.
Mm-hmm.
And what do you do when you're not comfortable or you feel like your parenting philosophy is in conflict with theirs? It's unsafe. It's teaching this unwanted habit or whatever it is. We're going to just talk about how to navigate that, how to get some bearings, how to protect, and when to not protect. But parenting at different ages looks differently, obviously. So it's parents and adults that might be parenting or modeling behavior that you're not comfortable with.
Right. So the why here is basically parents want to protect their kids, and I would say that's probably the number one.
Absolutely.
Right. It's just but I'm sure there's a difference between protecting your kids and being a helicopter parent.
Absolutely.
So, okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Which is it's a big gray area of, well, what is safety and how safe or unsafe are they? Right. And as a parent, there's this gigantic trust element that you're I don't really know. I'm there with teachers all day. Are all teachers good? No. Are all coaches? Are all club leaders? No. So how do you choose? And it's this awkward, I'm choosing to trust, even though I have maybe no great evidence to trust. Our daughter, she was in kindergarten, she was enthralled with school buses, and she was able to take a school bus to school as a kindergartner. And this was a dream come true.
Right.
And she wanted to actually get on the bus by herself. So no school, preschool, but we took her. And then boom, she's in kindergarten with, age 5 to 11.
Mm-hmm.
And she's going to get on this bus, and where we go, we're hands off. We have no idea once she steps on that bus, what's going to happen. And not only that, she wanted to walk to the bus stop alone, which was around the corner from her house. So we couldn't even see the bus stop. So I'm thinking, okay, what's a protective parent do? Do I know the bus driver? Absolutely not. Do I know the parents at the bus stop? No. Do I know any of the kids on the bus? Kind of. Not really. And so she's going to leave the house, walk around the corner where we can't see her, and get on the bus. And we'll have no idea if she was kidnapped until maybe 9 o'clock or 10 when the school calls, say, your kid is absent.
Right.
And we're like, holy shit. No, she's not. She's supposed to be at school. She was kidnapped.
Yeah.
Amber Alert. So as a parent, you're like, is this okay? Because once she leaves the house, we don't know that she's there unless the school calls and says she's not.
She's not.
So there's a trust element that's the bedrock of this subject. It's how much can you control? And what do you want to be able to trust that you can verify, what you can't verify? Could I go meet the bus driver? Probably, right? And get a good gauge of character? Maybe in my 5-second conversation. I'm not going to ask for a background check and, you're going to have like trust that the district's done their job.
Right. You assume.
Same idea with parents. You're like, well, are you gonna go in their house and inspect all the grounds and look for all sharp objects, pornography, all signs of like whatever, and then make the decision whether your kid can stay or not? Most people don't have time for that, and most people find that over the top, and then it probably sends a really extreme message to the other family that you're a weirdo.
Yeah.
Right. So
then you just got disinvited.
Somewhere in the middle between not knowing anything and your head's in the sand, and you're the helicopter parent who's also a CIA agent, planting a mic in the house, looking for the scoop, right? Like, so the why is I want to make sure my kid's safe, but I can't 100% guarantee that all the time. And so what's appropriate? And it depends on the kid, certainly the age of how much agency they have of their life, how much awareness they have, right? Good, bad, right, wrong. But also making sure they're set up to succeed in environments where it's not working. It's appropriate for parents to step in and take some action, age appropriately. So, right, it's different at 5 versus 15.
So should we walk through those age appropriate decisions that go through?
Yeah.
Because, I had to, I took a coaching role and this last summer, and I had to do the prerequisite coaching verification, things like that, right? So background checks and all that. And then also, they do the class of, it just scares the crap out of you. It's the child abuse or, sexual predators deal.
Yeah.
And it's terrifying, right?
Of what does happen, could happen.
Yeah, what does happen could happen, and the stats were mind-blowing and all that stuff, right? So, I think that age appropriate, and they were saying this is as young as, 5, 6, 7, would just blew my mind. So I would assume, and then as your kid gets older and bigger, it's probably, you feel like they can see those clues quicker. Maybe it's not as big of a deal, but so maybe let's walk through that, like your, I don't know, kind of younger kids from kindergarten to 3rd grade, something like that.
Well, first you start with educating your kids about safety, their body, who's allowed to touch it, who's not, which is not very many people are allowed to touch their body, what their own space looks like. There are great books about teaching your kids like how to like just take care of their body and who's safe and who's not safe. But that's never going to be perfect. Trusted people usually are the offenders, which is a very, which is a very concerning statistic, is that most perpetrators are actually family or close friends. And so there's established sense of trust there. So the guard's down for all parties, the parents and the kids, which makes it really confusing of like when and how do you have the guard up if you're like, well, these are family members, and like, oh, well, I don't know the statistics, but let's say 65 to 70% of the time, it's a family member. That's a terrifying reality, and it's really hard to guarantee safety. So at those younger ages, one, you start with self-awareness, right? Reviewing, not alarming them, not freaking them out, but just casually but consistently talking about like they're in control of their body. No one else gets to touch it, no matter what they say. Mom and dad are the only like safe ones, and even then, it's like we can establish like what's comfortable, what's uncomfortable. But you start with trying to self-educate your child, and then it's as the parent gauging a level of safety. Like, well, who is it? What do I know about them? And what are the practices in this home or in this place that I'm familiar with? And obviously, the more excluded, the more exclusive and hideout kind of spaces they hang out are generally where it's going to occur, right? So basements, bedrooms, closed doors. Some parents are like, we have an open door policy just to make sure everyone feels safe. And it's usually that's overkill. But if a parent's like, I don't care if it's overkill, I want to make sure my kids feel safe. I don't want anything happening here. And if they're at someone else's house, like I want to encourage that. But then that's an awkward space of like, I'm going to leave like, my son or daughter here, but please keep every door open.
Right.
Like, well, this is my home. Like, my kid's good. Like, okay, you can't go demand that. But gauging, like, what do you know about this parent? Can you observe their parenting relationship with their child? Does it look comfortable? Does it look trusting? Does it look safe? Is anything like look red flaggish? And I know some of these topics I think might overwhelm parents that have like never been in this space to feel like they're supposed to be a CIA agent and be able to detect. That's impossible. You can't. You really have to be able to go off of like your gut and your instincts and what feels right. But if parents are, if you hear from your child something about their friend's home that's concerning, listen to it, take it seriously. That doesn't mean it's guaranteed to be true. It might not be at the same level of concern that it sounds, but follow things up, right? Like, oh, what does that mean? Like, how did you learn that? And I don't know, you mean so-and-so got hit? Like, how'd they get hit?
Right.
It could have been like, oh, it was a football, or it was they were wrestling, and or it could be no, so-and-so gets really angry. Oh, so-and-so gets drunk often and does hit their kid. Obviously, if that were a situation, you're like, you're never going to so-and-so's house. That's just too risky. If there is a drinking problem that has ever turned into anything physical or negligent, I don't feel comfortable you going there, right? Like, say that would be an appropriate boundary for someone if they had reason to believe there is going to be compromised parenting, impaired in whatever way, right? Even if it was like physical, you're like, well, so and so is on bed rest, like they can't really do anything. That doesn't mean they're a bad parent, but I don't really want my little one in an environment where like no one's able to like take some physical action. So it's that age where, probably like, I don't know, under 6, under 7, just like they get it, but then they're also like, oh, I don't know, it's weird here. We should play more of an active role of like making sure the environment's good. There's super clear patterns of what they do to get out of an uncomfortable situation. Right. So maybe it is a loaned phone or a watch or a really good plan of who they talk to, not to freak them out. Right. And not to be like, there could be a fire today. And if there is, like, oh, that's going to jack up their play date. Like, oh my, well, fire. Like, why would there be a fire? Well, there could be, which is true, but you don't want to plant crazy seeds. So it's this balance between helping them be self-aware, but also not helping them be afraid and panicked. And that's the same space for the parent, is how do you be protective and aware and not be panicked? And it's like me at the bus stop with my daughter, like, well, I have to choose the kind of parent I want to be because I have no other option. Either I disregard her wishes, which I could if I wanted to, but I actually wanted her to be courageous because up to that point in her life, she wasn't taking a lot of risks. And I want her to feel empowered and I want her to be rewarded with that. So I didn't want to stop that by saying, hey, honey, I know that's great and all, I want that for you, but I don't trust everyone in the neighborhood or the bus driver, and so I'm going to make sure you get to school safely. I could do that, but I weighed it out and thought it's better. The odds are in my favor to trust, and the desire for her to feel accomplished and empowered was worth it. If she would have been kidnapped, I could blame myself, obviously, and be like, you should have stood at the bus stop and you should have da-da-da-da. But you can't live life like that. Right? Like anything could happen. It could have been an accident, not a premeditated thing. And they could do the same guilt trip. So it really comes back to, determining what kind of parent you want to be. I want to be an informed, involved parent. I don't want to be a fearful, controlling parent because that doesn't work very well. It's not allowing the kid to learn and grow. And it makes me paranoid.
Well, I think I question that line of feeling, like you're a crazy person and over paranoid versus I just don't feel right and maybe it's not worth it. I'm just going to say no today. You know what I mean? And so I'll say an example that we had, and we have some good friends and they're great people. And, they asked for one of our kids to go over to their house and it was the last second deal and they were gone and out of town, but it was, a brother or sister of theirs or a cousin or somebody else watching it. Someone we'd never met before. Right.
Yeah.
And we're just kind of like, it's just so last second. I don't know. I know no context. So we're just like, no.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it just felt better. And that was maybe couple-hour play date that I'm sure my kid will never
They're not
miss, or like they won't be scared that they missed. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But for me, like that was the line for me, where it's like that unknowing, completely unknowing, it just wasn't worth it. I was like, just having, I guess knowing some of the things that I've read and seen and some of the stats, right, on things like that. So versus I think the bus stop, I have a little bit of faith in maybe the school district did a little due diligence on the bus driver. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm still fighting that. So
There's accountability built into that process, where the other one, you have no idea.
right.
There's no proof of accountability other than what you've seen,
Mm-hmm.
right? Yeah, our kids have been safe, and we've also been very liberal in terms of allowing them to go places, spend the night, do that. But we've been involved plenty of times. There was one time where one of our kids' friends had them over, and we heard back like, oh, well, we were showering together. And you're like, oh, okay, well, they are young, and so maybe it doesn't have to be sexual. But does anyone need to be showering together? Absolutely not.
Right.
And so we inquired more and had more discussions. And there were a few other things too, where it was proof that the parenting supervision was what we would say below standard. And this kid was given a lot of free rein, almost like kind of spoiled, because parents wouldn't hold boundaries, and kid would throw a fit and they'd back off. And so this kid kind of got whatever they wanted. And we thought that's actually been harmful to our child at school. We've been hearing about some of these things. And so we actually said, you can't hang out with so-and-so anymore. And that's not the kind of parents we really want to be, but it was for our kids' safety.
Yeah.
And so we said, you can't do sleepovers for a while. And actually with this particular friend, after a few years, things, our daughter matured a little bit, age appropriately, and felt like she was able to make some of those decisions to be like, that's not for me, I don't want to do that, and felt really confident that she could be safe at this friend's house. And so actually fast forward a few years, and they were hanging out. There were sleepovers. We would still check in because this was still elementary school. And so it was still, how was it? Did you feel good? Did you feel safe? Like, did anything push you out of your limits? And so that was a calculated decision, but we stepped in and said, you can't hang out with so-and-so anymore because we care about you. It seems unhealthy, and your safety is more important to us. And so we limited their hangout time outside of school.
All right. So I think this is probably going to be a big question for people out there is, how do you approach that conversation with a parent, especially if maybe if you're friends, or have a long history with the parents, right?
Yeah.
And, maybe you see your parenting value system going in different directions, right?
Yeah.
So
the number one goal is to keep is for your kid's safety.
Right.
And further down the list, and it's not even the list, further down is number two, and it's way down. It's way below that. And that is maybe the friendship. Right. And then further below that is maybe influencing their parenting philosophy. But that's so far down the list, you would say that's none of your business, really. Your business are your kids. So you're not talking to them really with the goal of changing their parenting philosophy. That's over the top. If it were to happen, you'd say great, but you don't want to go in with that.
Right.
Your child's safety is number one concern, so big that there's really no other concern. But you do want to talk to them in a way that it goes well, right? Because if you'd like to maintain the relationship, how you talk to them matters. So neutralizing intro.
So we're kind of getting into the how.
This is the how to.
All right, how to. I like this.
You lead with you, me, us, we, okay? Versus you. No finger pointing, no judgment. Even though there is some judgment embedded in this process, that's not why you're talking to them. You're not there to judge them. You're there to ensure safety for your kid. So you lead with a neutralizing statement, in the counseling world, it'd be like an I statement. In this case, it's a we statement. Hey, I know we care a ton about like just environments and things, and sometimes we get pretty protective of our kids. And our parenting philosophies, and for the most part, are pretty similar. But there's some things that we're pretty particular about. And, you know, what we've seen.
Right now, my mind's being like, you asshole right now. Like, as soon as receiving it, as receiving it, as soon as I'm like, hey, man, thought we're friends.
Yeah.
Right.
You say we are friends.
Yeah.
And we don't really want this to get in the way of our friendship. And so we're stuck between a rock and a hard place because we're more committed to our kids and their predictable like livelihood and their childhood. And so we feel compelled to like step in sometimes and do what we feel like is safe for them. There is no easy way to have this conversation.
I think that's what I'm getting at. Like, you have to, that's what I'm asking. I was like, Josh, put on a silver platter an easy way to ever have this conversation, and it doesn't sound like they're ever.
Most people would never have this conversation. They would be 100% convinced this is their truth, and they wouldn't say it.
Yeah.
So really, you have to ask yourself, why do you want to say it? Do you feel like you need to give them this information of why your kid can't go over there? And do you think they're going to change? They're probably not going to change. I mean, who's ever thought like, yeah, I had this talk with so-and-so, and they kind of brought up some bad points about my parenting. I think I'm going to absorb those. I think I can be better. Yeah. And like, fuck so-and-so. Like, listen what they say. Like, they think they're so great. You know, yeah. That's like the normal, like, human behavior, right? So it really comes back to, what do you think you're going to accomplish? Like, who's this for?
Yeah.
What does that work? If you need to say something, you say something. If you think it's for them, I'd say probably don't say anything, because they're probably not going to receive it well. And then, I guess say a true statement. Probably. You just say a true thing. We got a lot of stuff going on. Okay, most people do in life. Yeah. And it just doesn't work right now. And right now could be this year, could be tonight. It's okay to keep it vague. You're not lying. Excuse me. You've calculated that you're trying to avoid like a relational blow up. If you feel like you can kick the can down the road, get the kids where they're older and they're not in danger, in that they're not compromised. And then you didn't have to have this big thing on record that we think you guys are irresponsible people. Mm-hmm. Do you have a right to say that? Absolutely. Does it work very well? No. So
I guess, all right, let's use, you know how I'm pretty spreadsheety, black and white. Yeah. I like art. It just charts all the things. I guess, in your professional opinion, what level of friendship, out of 1 to 10, for example, do you feel like it's good to have that conversation where, like, for example, with Mike, close friend, Mike, for example, with you and me, I would expect you to call me on my BS. Yeah. Right? Be like, you know what, Dan, you're acting like a jerk and a-hole, whatever. Right. Yeah. And so, you know, there is that level of friendship. And you know, maybe most of those friendships, because you're that close of friends, you have a lot of shared philosophy, so maybe it doesn't come up as much. Yeah. But I would say, like, in your opinion, what level of 1 to 10 of like the friendship level, right? Yeah. Do you think it's worse to breach a conversation like that versus the like you said, you know, we're just got a lot going on, we're busy, and we're not going to give a reason why we don't want our kids hanging out, or doing this or doing X or whatever. A 7 to an 8. Yeah. Now he's higher than that.
Yeah. Like, let's just say the safer number, the easier number is 8 and up. Yeah. If it's below an 8 in terms of quality of friendship, leave it alone. Right. Say something that's true and super vague, and just leave it alone.
True and vague. I like it. Yeah.
8 and higher.
Boy, how about that weather, huh?
They get real crazy with crazy weather, so they're staying home tonight, and they're not happy about it, I'll tell you. You've prioritized your kids' safety over what these people might think and what you owe them. Like, you don't owe them anything, but you do maybe owe your close friends something, right? And so it's like 8 or higher. Yeah, you say, hey, this is a tough conversation. We really, really, really don't want this to like mess up our friendship. It might, we'll see, but we really just try and be honest and open so that you know where we're coming from. We don't feel comfortable with certain things in your home with our kids there. what you guys do there, obviously your business. And I know this sounds judgmental, but it's not trying to be. We just don't know how to make peace with our kids being in that space and not feeling we have the control we do. So we're gonna be a little bit more controlling because of that. And we understand if that feels judgmental and weird. We would certainly want there to be time to process it. But that's where we're coming from. That's again, that's really hard, and it's most likely people are going to feel offended and hurt by that conversation. But if you've only made the decision to have that conversation, that these people mean enough to you, that you're saying it. If they don't mean enough to you, it's not worth it.
Yeah.
And even when it is, you're like, all right, you got to be ready for the relationship to take a pretty big hit, because that's like people's parenting philosophy is pretty closely tied to the ego.
Yeah.
And so you're insulting something about their character, their decision making, and their level of safety. Like, no one takes that lightly.
Right. Unless you're Larry David and you just want to just go, just let them all. I'll call it like you see it, you know? Which I kind of really wish I had the courage to do the ball finish and just stung. Yeah. I kind of think you're an idiot.
Yeah.
But your parents, you can think that.
It sucks. You suck.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think, and then, I think it's so nuanced, right? Because, you're going to have things like kids' team sports and, people driving kids to practices, to games, to whatever, all the stuff. And
yeah, so let's transition to the younger, to the mid-range. So we're going to go, 7 to 11, 7 to 12. Same concept. But you're asked a lot of questions when they're outside of your site with someone else, with another adult. Maybe not every school person, but coaches, friends, parents, extended relatives, just like, oh, what was it like? What'd you guys talk about? People singing songs in the car? What'd you do at so-and-so's house? You're asking, feeling like very casual questions, but you're looking for red flags. I shouldn't say that. Not exclusively. You're connecting with them, you're conversing, you're getting to know, but you're also paying attention because their safety means a ton to you. And it makes sense that you'd be curious about who they're with. So you're asking questions about what's their home like? Oh, did you meet their parents? What were the parents doing? And you don't want to act like a detective, because then they're like, I don't know, why are you asking me 1,000 questions? I don't know. I didn't really talk to the dad. But you kind of keep it like casual, so they don't like sniff out that you're looking to go solve some mystery.
Well, it's also probably just a good excuse to talk to your kids.
Absolutely.
Right. And just like, just be present, and like pay attention.
Yeah. Attention. What was it like for them? It sounded like that was fun, or it sounded like that was uncomfortable. Why was it uncomfortable?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not just one purpose is to go confirm safety on every place they go. You're also talking about life. Like when my daughter, who's now 14, she's talking about her day or her sleepover, I'm not really that concerned about red flags anymore. Not that something could happen, but the threat level has gone down significantly. Now we're just talking. And now I've moved into building and fostering our relationship and helping her process life. I'm less concerned about the threats. Is there a threat? Sure. Am I going to be able to predict it? Probably not. Hopefully she is, right? Hopefully nothing happens to her, but I can't say I can stop that. That's crazy. But I can regularly check in,
How often do you think it's healthy to have that conversation with your kids about, I think, when the kids are little and it's like, hey, this is my body.
Yeah.
Or this is your body, like only you can touch it, all that stuff.
Yeah.
Now it's a whole new thing. You get into middle school and high school and all that stuff. And do you have those conversations as far as, because now it's like kids are exploring and all that, the whole scenario. And I'm sure there's some, now I don't think you're worried about like, the creepy, whatever coach or whoever who like, type predator threat. But now it's like subtle lines of, date rape or yes means no, no means yes, all that stuff, right?
Yeah. You still want to talk about it, but not often. But talk about it enough to
They totally went away from other people's parents. Now I'm just like,
well, same, but it's
Yeah.
that thing.
yeah,
It's when your kids are outside of your sight and maybe in the company of another adult, which is often other people's parents,
right.
but it's also coaches, teachers, volunteers. Um, I mean, let's just be really honest. Abuse is happening in those areas, and abuse is happening to kids at all those ages. It doesn't stop at 11, right? I mean, go back to like some of these teen positions in college,
Yeah.
right? And it's an abuse of power position where people are confused. You go through all these like, all the sexual harassment and sexual assault cases. It's almost always an abuse of power. It's someone that felt confused that like it was their boss, it was their coach, it was a physician. It's this person that they're supposed to obey or listen to that's now making this inappropriate, extremely inappropriate gesture or move. And so regularly reviewing empowerment, no matter who in the entire world wants to do this to you, no one gets to touch you. Nobody without your permission, and you should feel comfortable with it. Okay? I don't care if it's a doctor. I don't care if it's the president of the United States. No one touches your body unless you want them to. I've said that to both my kids. Not often, but enough to feel like they're not going to be confused. Does that mean they'll never be abused? No. There's still a ton of things outside of my control and their control. But I want them to know that, to trust their instincts that this is wrong versus the confusing concept in the head that this seems inappropriate, but they're a parent, and so I'm supposed to like obey them, and I'm supposed to listen to them. They're a coach. They're the team physician. They're my whatever. You never want common sense to leave them, and you always want them to feel empowered. Like, no, Dad, Mom said, no one touches me. No one puts me in that situation.
Right.
So you talk about it enough to where you feel good that they get it, and not so much where they're now annoyed and they're like, "How seriously? Like that talk again?" Like, yeah, no, I get it. Safety, Dad.
But I mean, for me, I feel like that's something I should put on my yearly to-do list, like because I don't ever have that talk.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I ever have. I think probably my wife has more, because I know we talked about it, and she says she has with the kids, but it's just not something that's, always on my mind.
We don't want to think that way,
Right.
but it is a reality. And it's wise for them to be informed and educated and feel equipped and supported with a plan, right? So even if it's not like, let's say, a sexual abuse concern, but it's just parental liability or negligence, you want to tell your child, if you don't feel comfortable where you are, whether it's your friend's house, our friend's house, wherever, let us know. Find a way. Let's make sure there's open communication, because you don't need to be in a situation that makes you uncomfortable. Now, they're like, well, I'm uncomfortable in this test. Get me out of here. Well, that's not what we're talking about.
Me, my chaps it.
I can't take a test with dry lips. Obviously, there's a line in there of like what's safety and what's them, pulling the ripcord to get out of a tough situation. But it's an uncomfortable or unsafe situation that you want to make sure they feel informed and empowered, like how to get out of that. And so just talk like, hey, if you were uncomfortable tonight at so-and-so's house, let's talk about what you could do. And let them come up with some answers first, because they're more likely to own it and have a sense of empowerment versus giving them a plan. There's nothing wrong with giving them a plan, but start by asking them, like, what are some good ideas? And then they're more aware of it versus totally caught off guard and in, flight or fight, freeze kind of mode. That's where most people experience the abuse, is they're just like shocked. They're like, this should not be happening, but it is. And wait, what? And they're confused. And so they can't think it. Like, oh, my plan is blow my whistle, grab my mace, call my dad, call the cops, yell, push, run. Obviously, those are like all abuse kind of situations where in some cases it's just, this kid wants me to take a shower and that makes me uncomfortable. And you're like, you don't need to do anything that kid asks you to do. You shouldn't do anything that makes you uncomfortable. And I want you to feel empowered. Like, I'll come get you in a split second. Like, you don't need to be there.
Right.
You know?
But in your experience, would you say that trauma can lead to some, a lot of work that someone has to go through in life later?
Oh,
Having a traumatic experience like that.
100%.
And so, I guess I would really err on the side of I would rather my kid be prepared and understand what is, maybe not like in graphic detail, but what is possible out there, and giving them the tools to, like you said, communicate about it, see red flags, hey, I'm like, tough ball when you get out of here.
Yeah.
It just, we were talking about affirmations last time, right? And like, how many times do maybe parents go and affirm their kid, maybe in a negative way, and oh, make sure you get a good grade on the test, or oh, you look great, oh, you're so cute, look at you, whatever, versus having a real conversation like this, at least once a year or twice a year or whatever, figuring out kind of what that cadence is, to truly equip them versus just, negative affirmations that really don't amount to much and whatever, right? So
given that safety is maybe the most important thing for a child's overall development, I can make an argument for that. You should have them often. Again, the gauge is, are they irritated and annoyed and now not listening? Okay, don't talk about it. Maybe you've covered it enough, or find a different way to talk about it. But it's better to err on the side of they definitely know what safety feels like, what empowerment feels like. They definitely know how to advocate. They definitely feel supported by mom and dad, that they don't have to do anything in the physical or emotional sense that's uncomfortable. I would talk about it as often and bump up against that line, and maybe even go over that line sometimes. We're like, no, I got it, Dad. No one touches my body. Like, love it. You got it. Love it.
Yeah.
Sorry I'm annoying you, but your body and your safety mean a lot to me, and so I'd rather be annoying. I'd err on that side. And talk about it enough to where you feel really confident they understand that. It doesn't guarantee anything, right? People can get tripped up and confused under the influence, or you name it. Things happen. But talking about it often is way better than not.
Yeah.
So when they're younger, parents need to be able to set those boundaries for their kids and say, sorry, you can't go to so-and-so's house. Both of our kids experienced what we would say inappropriate things with younger kids. Exploratory, falls within the lines of normal, and at the same time inappropriate. Like, no doubt. Like, wait, no, you took your clothes off? No, sorry. And so-and-so made you kiss them? No, sorry. We don't do that. That's not fair to you. That's not how we wouldn't want you to do that to someone else, and blah, 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 all that, right? And so we've taken steps to say you can't hang out with so-and-so, or if you do, doors are open, or you're playing on the main level where you can see long enough, because you're really just hoping to get them to those different stages of awareness and maturity where they can be more empowered. And as they get older, there's less control and there's more equipping, right? You still equip when they're younger, but it's more about, hey, so-and-so is unhealthy, we're not going over there. But when they're 17 years old, it does not work well to say you can't go to so-and-so's house. You can do that. It depends on the relationship with your kid. But I see way too many control battles that don't work very well than I do equipping your teenager to make informed decisions about what's safe and what's unsafe for them. You could be like, I don't care, they can be pissed at me because they're not going to hang out with so-and-so. And I would say, oh, okay, well, they're 17. In 1 year, they're going to hang out with whoever they want. You'll have no idea.
Right.
You're not really helping. What's better is to prep them before. Hey, you're going to so-and-so's house. Oh, okay, fun. Hey, there have been times in the past where you reported it was like this or this or this. Like, what's your plan? What would you do? I don't want to talk to you, Dad. I know, but like, if they suck and they did their thing again, like, what are you going to do? I want to reiterate, you can call me any time of the day, right? Like, I'll never judge. I'll never get mad. You call the police if anyone's ever doing anything that's even close to making you feel uncomfortable, because I'd rather deal with those consequences than the other ones, right? It's more about equipping, preparing, and then unpacking than it is preventing when they're 16, let's say, and older. and actually even a little bit younger. Like you could be a little bit more like, you know what? Every time you hang out with so-and-so, your mood is horrible. You're like bitter, you're depressed. They seem to suck the life out of you. I can't say yo, or I can't say, I can't say no tonight. Right. Or I can't say yes to that. I'm going to say no tonight because it doesn't go very well. But when they're driving, they're old enough to make some of those decisions. They're going to do it whether you like it or not. They're seeing them at school all the time. They're going to be maybe at someone else's house that you said yes to, and then so-and-so comes over and you can't keep track of all that. It's better to have conversations about it and not scapegoat that kid, not paint that kid all one thing, because no person is one thing, and say, how was that for you? Did you feel empowered? Did you feel safe? Did you have to like put your boundaries in place? No, Dad, it was fine. It was fun. Oh, okay, cool. Yeah. You know,
well, so it sounds like, just like you said, equipping them, right? Which is, I guess, really the goal of this entire podcast is to help equip parent and kid.
Yeah, when we can go put the measures in place, and when the kid has to, when it's all age appropriate. Early on, it's us saying like, no, they're not hanging out solo with so-and-so. Like half the time they're drunk.
Yeah.
Right. And this is, I've heard this a lot of parents from their parents, grandparents who like aren't trustworthy. Either they feed them just nothing but junk, or grandpa or grandma is like half drunk or full drunk, or the political talk or the talk of the house is toxic. They're like, no, they're not hanging out there without us being and supervising, right? Or so-and-so's friend's house. So it's like, that place is crazy. There's people coming in and out there all the time. I have no idea who's there. No, they're not going there alone. I'll be there. Like they hang out with their friends if I'm there. And then they get older and it's more handoff, right? Overall parenting is you protect a lot, you teach a lot, and you awkwardly, before you're ready, start handing off the rest of the way.
Before you're ever ready.
You're never ready to be like, yeah, go be exposed to the world of danger and I can't do anything about it. Have fun tonight.
Yeah.
That's the reality, right? And you got to push yourself, but not carelessly, not like, well, you already know so-and-so, like, I don't know what the threat would be. They just got arrested. They just got out of jail for, that thing. No, you're not going to go there. Or, Dad, I'm on my way. You're not going to stop me. Okay, well, what's your plan? I got your back if you need me. You don't put up with anyone's stuff. Like, feel empowered. Yeah, right on. And then you practice not worrying the rest of the night.
Yeah, and then good luck with that. You got to find it. That's where mindfulness comes in, and we'll talk about that next time.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's recap real quick, Josh. So, O.P.P.
Yeah.
Other people's parents.
Yeah.
Obviously, kind of the why is because we love our kids and we want to protect our kids, right? Like, yeah, we kind of talked about that, but some of the things I think that we talked about was one, those earlier stages, right? When your kid's lives of, being a little mindful of who they're with, embedding all those things and maybe just empowering the parents and yourself to say no. And right.
Yeah.
And then when those conversations with the parents, if you have to have those conversations, I think we're gauging, do we want to have those conversations?
Yeah.
Right. And I think we
generally, you're going to be
you said, and it's going to be out there for all time. It's got to be at an 8 or above.
Yeah.
You really want to have that.
It'll be like 8.5. 8.5. I mean, because it doesn't go well.
Right.
So you got to be okay with that.
So then, but just being able to say, I think, what did you say? Just keep it vague and keep it honest, keep it vague.
Yeah.
And right. But you have peace to protect your kid and that. And then as the kids get older, it really becomes more about equipping them and empowering them, but not being afraid to have those conversations as often as you need about whether it's, your body, your control, how do we communicate, how do we keep open-minded communication, what's your game plan, things like that.
There's going to
Did I leave anything out?
No, that's a great song. That's actually great. So the key to that section of the latter part of their childhood, those teenage years, is it's less on prevention. Even you do as much prevention as makes sense. Okay. There are a lot of caveats to here. Like there are tons of helicopter parents that are going to feel like super empowered to be like crazy controlling. That's not what we're talking about. Don't do that, please. And if you're doing that, tune in for other podcasts where we'll address like how to let go. It's more importantly, after you've done the teaching, whatever they experience is recovery and learning and growth. So don't be so paranoid that you've got to prevent everything, because you can't prevent life. Do your best to be informed and keep them safe so they know what safety looks like. But when something happens, you're there, big arms, loving them, caring for them, and helping them learn and walk through it, whatever it is. It's a breakup, it's a bad grade, or it's assault. They're going to need love and learning and time to process that. And you can only do so much to prevent that. So kind of holding all that into place is a big parenting overview. You're going to do everything you can to keep your kids safe. And we obviously hope that that all works and they never encounter anything destructive. But we also know that's not how life goes for everybody at all times. And so equally important, and maybe more importantly, is how do you step into that space of recovery and health and support if they have experienced something tough.
Right. Okay. Awesome. Well said.
Yeah.
Thanks, Joshua.
Thanks, Dan.
All right. Well, thank you all. And we'll see you on the next episode of The Pretty Good Parent.
Right on. Thanks, guys.